Are you guys able to hear me? Just indicate if you can hear me.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Again, once more, welcome to this uh, landmark testimony session. We have with us today. We have Claire, who is uh, one of our finest engineers and ambassador, making impact in the workplace already. I think she has worked now for close to 9 months, making unprecedented common impact as a DevOps engineer. So, Claire, I'm going to like to start with you, and I'll be proceeding to George as well. George is a class 28 grad. He has to graduate next Saturday, from Toronto, Ontario. So he is going to be sharing with us also his experience. He has a very humbling testimony that came with a green card package. So a lot is happening and it continues to happen as men and women are being deployed in the upper echelon. So that said, Claire, just tell us again how long you've been working and how the work environment has been. And even before that, let's just understand a little bit of your background before your landmark encounter.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me? Okay. Um, I'm here again. Last time I was giving a testimony, I was about to start working and I was so scared. I didn't know what to expect. So I'm here again to give another testimony on how the work has been. It's been an interesting journey. Before I joined Landmark, I was into modeling. Most of you know because most people have reached out to me on Instagram, TikTok. Say, are you Claire from Landmark? I say yes. They say, wow. So you're a model for real. So before I joined Landmark, I was into modeling, and a friend of mine told me about, oh, have you heard about Landmark? I said, what is Landmark? He said, just go and reach out to Prof and tell him that you want to join. When I reached out, Prof was like, where are you coming from? Who are you? What's your background in IT? I said, I have no background. So he was like, you can register. I joined I was in class 26. So I joined like a month late. And when I joined, I was like, you guys, sitting in class from the first days. I was so confused. I was thinking about what have I gotten myself into? Am I sure this is what I want to do? I was having like all these questions coming to my mind, but at the same time, I knew what I wanted. I knew that this is a lifetime career for me. And before I joined, I watched a lot of testimonies. And when I watched those testimonies, I had one thing in my mind. I'm going to go through this program, I'll get a job, and I will give a testimony and I will inspire somebody. That's what I told myself. So no matter how difficult it was, the learning, everything, I still told myself one day I will give a testimony landmark and I will stand out because I always tell myself wherever I go to, I try to like make a difference and stand out. So they put us in groups, like Prof was saying, he's going to put you guys in groups. They put us in groups. The first sessions, I wasn't really taking my group seriously because I felt like they were not serious. But after that, we had like more people join the group, and people began to like take it seriously. There were some people who already had like the IT background, and others did not really have the background. So people were like, we need to take this seriously. We need to help each other. We need to, if we want to, like, we cannot leave people behind and keep going ahead. We need to hold everybody's hand because this journey is tough for all of us. So that's what we decided in our group. We said we're going to like hold everybody. Everybody was willing to learn and study. So we're like, we hold everybody till the end. So I was towards like when the class finished, I wasn't people were taking like interviews already and people were giving testimonies. But I was like, I'm not ready to go into the market. I don't think I'm ready. But I wasn't ready though, because I was kind of like behind. So I still had like a couple like videos to watch and I was behind. But the same thing like Prof used to say, don't go into the job market when you're 50% ready. You're not ready. Go into the job market when you know that don't go because people are going. Go because you know that you are personally ready to go and take the interviews and talk to those people. Because what those people are telling you is not the same thing that your group mates will be telling you, because people have different experiences when they go for interviews. So I went into the job market after our graduation. So it took me a week in the job market, mind you. Why? Because I was ready. I told myself I'm ready. Nobody told me, oh Claire, go. And people were telling me like, the way you're speaking in the group, the way you're talking, you're ready. What are you waiting for? I told them no, I don't think I'm ready. So when I was ready, I went into the job market, and it took me like I took the first interview. I didn't go well. The Indian guy was so rude, but I didn't take that as anything, because I was like, this is just the first experience. Things are going to get. I was kind of discouraged. I came back. I regained my energy. I told myself, I'm confident with what I've gotten from Landmark. If people from Landmark can get jobs, then why would I go and be discouraged by one interview session? I went back. When I went back, the next interview that I had, they gave it to me. It was 30 minutes. Those guys gave it to me, and they had about 18 contestants, and they gave it to me. I still went, because I had like each day I used to schedule like 2 or 3 interviews. So when I had the first one, they called me. I took in the afternoon around 2 p.m. They called me around 6 p.m. They said they decided to give you the job. I didn't like cancel all the interviews. I called Prof that night. I was like, I have an offer. Prof was saying, do you have any other like interviews coming? I said, yes, I have more interviews that I've scheduled. Prof said, go ahead and take the interviews. I went ahead, because at this point I had the first offer. I was like, if I can get this one, I will get the other ones. So I went, I was so confident, I was so bold. I know, like the second interviews, those guys were looking at me like, where is this girl coming from with this kind of confidence? When I went, they started asking me questions. My second interview was, the first round was 30 minutes, the second round was 2 hours, and the third round was 45 minutes. So I'd already taken the 30 minutes before my first offer came. So I went and I took the second round, which was 2 hours. I sat there with those guys for 2 hours. It was more like a conversation, because I already made myself very comfortable with them, and they made themselves like very comfortable with me. So we were just discussing. They were like confusing what to ask. They'll go to my LinkedIn, come back, go here, go here. I was just sitting like smiling, answering the questions with confidence. If I don't know, I say, okay, let's just move on. I'll come back to that question, because I didn't let the trick that I used when I was in the job market. I did not let the guys, like when they ask me a question, I did not waste time for them to move on. Because when they move on, that's a red flag for you. So when they ask me the questions, if I don't know, I try to tell them, oh, maybe that kind of skip my mind. Let's move on. I'll come back to your question. That's how like I made them to move on and then come back. Because maybe along the way I remember the answer, and I'm like, okay, I remember your answer now to that question. Maybe I can give the answer, and they're like, that's fine. But when they ask you a question and you sit quietly and you're shaking your head, that's not good for you. So it's good to like always make it a conversation. Say, okay, I'm sorry, that skipped my mind. Let's move on. I'll come back to you. So that's how the interview went. 2 hours passed. They scheduled me for the same before the interview ended. They told me, "Oh, we have another session. 45 minutes." They scheduled me for the next round. We spoke, and after that, they called me, and that's the job that I've been doing now. The first job that I had, that's the one that is a contract, and it's almost ended. And then the second one that I had was a full time, and I had a third offer, but I did not take that one. Even though Prof told me take that one, because after I had the second interview, I went and I had the third one. So after I had my two job offers, I went to the guys and I told them I'm not interested in the opportunity anymore. They called me. They said, no, we're preparing your offer. I just told the guys. They sent me the offer, but I told them I don't think I can go with three jobs at the same time. So from there, we moved on to the working experience. I've been working at Discount Tire, and I'm working at Odeco. So Discount Tire has been a contract. I've worked on two projects so far. And when I first started, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I used to panic. Even to run, who am I on my computer? I used to be scared. I thought I would break something every time. It was so scary. But how did I gain that confidence? It's just thinking that what you're doing now is exactly what you're going to be doing when you get to work. There's no difference. It's just I just had the fear because I've never been in a real like working scenario. Whenever somebody reach out to me on Teams, they say, Claire, can you check on this, or can you reach out to this? We have this issue. I'll go there. I know what to do, but I'm just scared to press like that, to hit my computer to do something. But as time went on, I used to like stay up at night, do extra studying. But as time went on, I became like so confident. Now I just jump to work. I, do stuff. I do my research. I don't just like go into quickly into answering questions. When my manager reach out to me, I'm always like, okay, I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna look at this and I'll get back to you. So that's how I've been like handling everything. And in my full time job, my manager, I had my review like 3 weeks ago, and they were telling me like you're gradually becoming one of our best troubleshooters, and I was like, what is happening here? I posted something on my social media. I said troubleshooting is gradually becoming one of my favorite hobbies, and people were like, how can you be saying that you like troubleshooting? Because I'm so much into the DevOps now that I don't, sometimes I sit on my computer, time to get off, I don't even leave, I just sit there all day, just looking at things, touching things, troubleshooting. I come the next day, my manager is like, who did this? Claire, we saw that you were working past working hours. We are trying to make everybody have a like work-life balance and all that. And I'm just like, bro, you don't have to worry about it. I'm okay. So my full-time job is really like going well, and like they're looking at me like, this girl, I'm the only female on my team. We have five DevOps guys, and I'm the only female, so that makes like five of us. So it's like every time they're like, okay, maybe Claire will do that, because when I first started, the first project I worked on was we're migrating from hem 2 to hem 3. I know you guys get there. So when we had like services to migrate, and in a day I would do like three at the same time, and then they were like, maybe we just give Claire to do everything since she does like three at the same time. And it was just funny. So like the experience has been like a good one. Now you can feel like the journey is rough. You see a black screen, you see prof typing some commands, and you're scared, like, will I ever know these things? Trust me, you'll get there. I didn't have any experience. I never even knew how to turn my computer on, because I was every time I take a computer, I'm looking for where the on button is. But now it's like I take my computer, I know what to do, I know where to go, I type, like, I don't know if I should be calling myself a guru, but the DevOps is really, really getting into me. It is really, and I'm loving it. Like the experience is really good. My contract job is going to end. I'm gonna give myself to the end of the year to get another contract to add to my full time. So I'm just gonna like flex with a couple months, and then next year I'll get another job.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, how long have you been able to manage two environments?
For 8 months.
Okay, so for 8 months plus, you've been able to effectively work in this environment, and you've been able to manage everything. Now you are finance engineer. You got to know about landmark as an accident. You were on the way to becoming one
America's top model.
of the American top model. Yes, when you got interrupted on your way, and like, okay, you're not flying economic anymore. We are now upgrading you to first class, and you stumble into landmark, and today we are listening to you. You are from a zero background. You have not only become a DevOps engineer, you're able to successfully work now for over 8 months. It's so humbling. We are so grateful to God for this week today. And on record, Claire joined the class. That was after 3 weeks. That was just because we always do students on the 10th week, the end of the 10th week of the class. That's when she joined this program. And today we are listening to her speak eloquently with a lot of relaxation as a validation that you have what it takes to make it happen. Claire, I know a lot of folks will have some questions for you. One of the reasons I brought you on board was just for people to have a feel of what it means to have worked as a DevOps engineer, working and working, be happy, be excited, and be living the life that some folks in this class are going to be living beginning next year. So that is just basically some of the reason why we always bring people like you to encourage the class. Okay, but again, just I mean, don't go yet so that when we come back with questions, we'll be able to intervene. But we have with us here George as well. George is last 28. He's due to graduate on Saturday next week. And he was doing a break. I received a text message from admin. As usual, it was a humbling text message. The admin said, let me put that message. So good as go for another job offer with visa sponsorship, H-D1 work visa and green card application. With a lot of stuff as part of. He says I call it triple offer. That is the mean, we have administrators helping us. For us to effectively manage landmark, we have one that for us to do what is needed. So, George, just tell us your background. How did you find yourself in landmark? What were you doing originally?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. So I am a oil and gas engineer. I'm a heavy consultant. I travel a lot, and since over 12 years, I've been traveling, overseas, domestically. So my job requires me to travel a lot, and hence it came to a point where I decided, it's time to settle and actually get a very relaxed kind of environment that I'm looking for. And eventually I came across a point to start the year, I think January, February, where I had a very down period of my life. So this is more towards the personal side of things, where I had an extremely down period of my life. And I started to question certain things, what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong. And finally, what happened is, and as Prof also shows you, prayers and having your communication with God is what matters the most, right? So I think it was one night, it was April first week or second week, and I was just like, God, if you're going to answer my prayers, answer it right now. And I showed him exactly what I was struggling with, and I was like, I'm really in the deepest points of my life. Can you please give me an answer? The next day I go to work, and I have a colleague named Eno, and she's also in the landmark classes, by the way. She basically just randomly came to me and she said, George, I joined this class called Landmark, and it's a DevOps program, and I just thought I'll tell you about it. And I was just like, okay, and I didn't take her seriously. And I go about my day. I come back the next day, and she's like, hey, its classes are going well, and I thought I might as well share this with you. And then I started thinking whether it's actually something I should take into consideration. So then she sent me some few links, not like she's trying to sell me anything, but she sent me a few links. And then I checked the links out. I was just like, okay, this is something I could try. Again, it was affordable, it was nice, it was highly recommended, and I was like, might as well try it. Day one started. Now you have to note that I joined the class 3 weeks late, and it was probably the end of Linux, if I'm not wrong, and the starting of Git, if I'm not wrong, and I started very late. And I took it seriously upon myself to finish it, no matter what, day in and day and night. I was like, if I'm gonna get something done, you might as well strive for it, right? So I gave it my all, no matter from day one till day end. I remember the September 1st was the last class of ours. Sleepless nights, I gave it my all. I struggled, I sweated a lot. I did everything I could. There were nights when I had to skip events, the nights when I had to, skip my own birthday. I just said, no, nothing doing. I'm going to get this done. So that motivation is what drove me, is what, kept me going. And I was like, the only thing that stops me from achieving what I have to achieve is me and myself. If you can solve that, you can get what you want to get, right? So I kept pushing and kept pushing. And finally came to a point where we finished our classes, boot camp started, and just like Claire, like she mentioned, I also waited till the very end because I was just like, I am ready, but I just want to wait. Patience matters. So don't get influenced by people who say they got a job. Don't get influenced by people who are rushing. Understand yourself best, get to know yourself truly, and get to know that what, it's not a rush, it's not a hurry, it's not a game. It's just a matter of time before you get the job, right? The only thing I can tell you from my journey with this is take your time to understand. If you have to suffer 5 months, suffer it. It's worth it, right? So if you have birthdays coming in, it's okay. Your birthday will come in next year. It's perfectly fine. So struggle, sweat, cry if you have to cry, and just keep pushing. And finally you'll get it. And when you get it, you'll understand it's worth it. And you also have to understand, I can give you my statistics. So I have an Excel file opened up in front of me. I've interviewed with 150 recruiter calls. Okay. 23 companies pushed to the first round and the second round, out of which 12 companies came back and pushed me to the final round, out of which 2 to 3 companies came back and pushed me to the absolutely final round, out of which one I took. Now, you have to understand, people take 2 jobs, 3 jobs, that's perfectly fine. I'm sticking with one personally for my reasons. I'm sticking with one job for now to get an understanding of what I'm getting into. And then eventually, when I get comfortable, I will push to the second job, right? So it's a matter of people's perspective. So for me, I'm content with what I've gotten, and I'm very happy. Now, you also have to understand it's a struggle to get a job in my field, in my situation, because I need visa sponsorship and a green card. So, or at least a visa sponsorship. Most of the companies, 90% of the companies reject me straight away, out of which the mega established companies, the big boys, are the ones who at least accept it and are ready to move forward with it. So my probability of getting a job is much harder than a person like an American or a US or a green card holder, much harder. So I really had to try harder to impress them. So it comes to a point where you start going for interviews and you realize, the more interviews you go for, the only better you're going to get. You're going to get much better at knowing how to talk and knowing how to speak. It finally came to my last interview, I think on Friday. I had one just on Friday. I went on site. The way I was talking, I just was so fine-tuned to answering my questions the right way to make them actually get interested. Even if I didn't know the answer, the way I said I don't know was still so good that they believed me that I could still solve something else. So that trust me, it's practice, 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 sweat, 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 and eventually you'll get it. It's a matter of time. If it takes 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, there's no hurry. Trust the goal, trust the process, trust professor, continue the course. And if you have any questions, always Google. Even if professor gives his information, if you don't have the answer, go to Google. Google is right there in front of you. You'll find the answer. People have written the same thing. Learn, keep learning, and your journey never ends. Even after you get a job, your journey never ends. And eventually, you know, good luck will come upon you, favor will come upon you, and God will always be with you. And trust me, you will find what you have to find. So I'm going to keep it short, Professor. I know you have other things to,
Oh,
list out.
thank you so much, Josh, for that review. To know that you are from an oil and gas background and you'll be able to be pushed to multiple final rounds and again unable to proceed with most of them because of documentation constraints. And finally, you have been able to get not just what you learned, but it has come as a full package. So, can you just throw light on some of the questions that you were asked in this interview and how you responded to them? Make it directed speech as if you are at the center of that interview and how you attempted them. I say a few folks wanting to know how that entire process went.
Sure. So we're just going to specify on the current job that I got. We'll just talk about that for now. So it was purely a senior role. It was a very highly AWS infrastructure. They're looking for Terraform, which you will get to eventually. So Professor will lead you there. Some of the questions that were asked were purely on AWS. Also, Professor will get you there, so don't freak out yet. And it was purely on AWS, just questions about the basics, about the insights, and then it's just understanding how you can manage AWS along with Terraform, how you can actually code, how you can actually write to an extent. So it was purely questions on that. They asked me questions on Kubernetes, on Docker, which is, again, Professor will get you there. So again, don't worry. And it's just your insight knowledge as to how to answer these questions. They gave a small coding challenge, which I was able to solve. I would say the first round of mine was the most hardest actually, because I was interviewing. I'm Indian, by the way. I hope you know that. I interview also with Indian people too, and I know they're very hard to interview with. So it's just how you tweak it and get the answer right is the main thing. So eventually I was able to impress them in the first round and go through the next rounds. And after it just became easy for me. So the questions asked were purely AWS, purely Kubernetes, Docker, and Terraform. And just because I also want to add to this, professors, professor teaches, okay, professor teaches you. You have to take the challenge to not. I'm not trying to sound rude, but I'm trying to say I've seen people sit on a couch and study. That's not acceptable. If you want to make it, you got to get up. You got to sit in front of your computer, take notes, open up a Word file, take screenshots. That's the only way you'll make it. Don't sit on a couch. Don't lie on a bed. You will never make it that way because then you'll have questions. You'll practice, 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 and practice. At the end of 5 months, it comes out like it's water. It comes out like it's air from your mouth. So when I have to interview with 23 companies, 25 companies, it's air coming out. It's just naturally coming out. So those are the things. I had no issues interviewing with most of the companies. So just want to lay it out to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm not sure if anybody have questions for uh, have any questions of George and for Claire. If you have any questions, we'll just take a few of those questions at this time so that we are able to understand. So let me see. Uh, yeah, I think you can unmute.
Getting out of couch now. I see a comment over there.
Okay. I see. Yes, Kingsley, can you go ahead and answer the question?
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Good evening and congratulations on your career. I just
Thank
want
you.
to find out, find some of us. I, for one, have done DevOps to a very large extent, but the people that told me I wasn't satisfied. I didn't have that self-confidence, so I decided to come study with people because my friend was in class 26. They said I should come here. So what I wanted to find out some specific questions to ask during the interview.
Claire, would you like to go or would you like me to go? Okay.
So, George, maybe you can just highlight one of the questions you were asked in the interview.
Sure. Okay. One of the questions, let's say, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Docker. Okay, let's talk about a simple question like, what is an EC2 instance? Questions around AWS. I'm sure you've already looked into that, right? EC2 instance and the storage volumes, and then CloudWatch, Fargate, EKS, ECS. These topics will come eventually in the future for you, so you don't have to struggle about it today. But I just want to let you know, whatever professor teaches you, 90% will come from that. 10% comes from your experience Googling and understanding. Also remember, just when you go for
So
interview
from there
one,
now, we've integrated with support.
you will learn things that they're asking you questions on, and you may not know the answer. You get rejected from that round. Take those questions, go to Google, find the answer, or buy a course on it, find the answer. Come back, go for the next interview. That's how I reached 23 and I had all the answers. So it's the questions asked sometimes are purely on what professor teaches, 100%, and sometimes the questions are outside the scope, which is totally okay. It's not too hard to find because Google has the answers for you. I hope I answered the question, Kingsley.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And maybe, Claire, can you just highlight us for one of the questions you encountered in the interview? I know you have your testimony with all those questions highlighted, which I'm also sharing now in the class channel. That those that may not have gone through Claire's testimony, which is already on our class channel, can take advantage of sharing it. The Claire just go ahead and highlight one of the questions you may have confronted.
Yeah. So one of the questions that I got was, like every time you go into an interview, I think they'll always ask you like, because it's DevOps, right? All the environments are different. We can be doing the same thing, but we can be in the same field, but we're doing completely like different things in different environments. So when I went, they were like, okay, so tell me a little bit about your environment, your experience with DevOps, and what you've been doing, over the years. So when they asked me that question, I sang the landmark morning devotion. That's how we used to call it in our class. I know it came from our class by Ivan, I think. So he named it like the landmark daily devotion. So when they asked me, I don't know if I can still say it because now I'm so full of my environments, but I'm going to try to just give you guys like just like the high level of how I answered that question. So when they asked me about like, so tell us about your environment. So I was like, yeah, so I'm into DevOps. I've been a DevOps engineer for over 4 years now because my resume has 4 years. So I told them I've been a DevOps engineer for over 4 years now. So I have collaborated with my team to build and maintain DevOps pipeline from scratch. So one of the pipelines that we've maintained and how my environment is structured is, so I work closely with developers, and when they write their code, they push them to GitHub. GitHub is our source code management system. So when they push the code, they are pushing alongside the build scripts, the unit test cases. So when they push the script, as a DevOps engineer, we integrate Jenkins with GitHub because we use Jenkins as our CI/CD tool. So we integrated Jenkins with GitHub to pull the code when developers push the code. So we've integrated Jenkins using Git or webhook configurations or build periodically or pull LCM. So Jenkins is able to pull the code from GitHub, and we're using Maven to do a build. Because why are we using Maven? Maven, we work with Java-based projects, so we're using Maven or Ant to do our build. So when the build is done, before Maven does a build, it does some compilation, some validation, so it does yeah, it does some compilation, validation, and once the build succeeded, we're using SonarCube. Why are we using SonarCube? In Landmark, we are very heavy on the quality of the code. So we're using SonarCube to do additional code quality. So we are scanning the code against vulnerability, bugs, code smells, and all that. So when we scan the code and SonarCube gives us a go ahead, we're now using Nexus to back up our artifacts. Why? We're backing up artifacts because when something happens along the pipeline, we're not going back to GitHub to get the code to start redoing the build again. We're backing up the artifacts in Nexus because when we back up our artifacts there, we just pull the artifact into Docker and we're able to build some Docker images. So if we're doing like a build and release, this is the process of our build and release. When we backed up our artifacts in Nexus, this is the process of our build and release. So now we'll go to our continuous deployment. We're using Docker as our containerization tool. So with the help of Docker, we build some Docker images. And with the help of a Docker file, which we've written and we've stored in GitHub, we build Docker images and we later on push to a Docker registry. So we are pushing these images with tags to make sure that we are able to differentiate the images. And with the help of Kubernetes, and now I told them when I joined Landmark, we're using kubeadm to configure our cluster. But as time went on, we improved and we started using EKS. EKS is a managed service by AWS. So EKS ensures like high availability, scaling of the cluster. So with EKS, you don't have to like write a Kubernetes manifest file from scratch, or you don't have to do all that. With EKS, we also like introduce Helm. So with the help of Helm chart, we are able to like just go, because Helm chart, we have templates, we have sorry, I'm forgetting. So I'm just thinking about my environment. So with the help of Helm, so we are able to like just go into a Helm chart and the values file. We have the templates file, the values file. We are able to specify our kind of configurations and we are able to do our deployment. And we're using Kubernetes as an object to do our deployment. And we have various methods of deployment. We have Landmark in my head, prof.
No, it's okay, Claire. Now you are in between landmark and your environment. So now that I can understand, which is very important. Let's just take one more question. That was like the summary of morning devotion. Let's take one more question. I see Ricardo's hand up. Ricardo, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, both of you mentioned that you were going to plan on taking a second job in the future. How plausible does it seem in terms of the workload? Do you think it'll be easy to just switch and take on two jobs, given knowing what you're doing now?
I personally have not taken a second job yet because I want to get accustomed to my first job, at least for some amount of time, to see exactly what the scope is. And then once I'm comfortable with the whole meetings layout, let's say with the work layout, then I can take the second job, right? But some people take two jobs at the same time. That's personal to them. But for me personally, I will wait for another 4 months easily, at least by next year, Feb or March is when I'll be looking out for the second job, just for personal reasons, because I need to get accustomed to my environment.
Yes, and secondly, Ricardo, most persons that have like more than one job, they actually create a company. Like you can create a company, and via that company, you can take like a contract job. That becomes a contract job, which means you can have a full-time job with Landmark. Then you take contracts from other companies that you are able to do that. So that is like no big deal, because in that case you are now managing the second role, not as you anymore, but as a company that you have created. And that's why even we have the landmark program. The mentorship program is intended to help folks to be able to actually become millionaires in dollars. They are creating their own IT companies and managing the company such that they can take contracts from other companies. And while you are taking a contract, you are now setting the price that you want to pay based on how much effort you think you need to invest in it. So that's how it goes. I mean, I think we have folks that have like multiple contracts alongside in their company, which is, I mean, that is, just fine, because that contract is going to be signed. Like if you are going to take a contract of Tesla, for example, it will be between Tesla and Ricardo Tech. Maybe you have a company called Ricardo Tech, and that company wants to be helping Tesla to build and maintain their pipelines. You can do that for Tesla. Maybe you can do that again for like five other companies. Because again, most of the time, the tasks that you are going to be doing are repetitive tasks. Like Amazon itself, they are providing several resources in AWS. Now, they have like millions of companies that are using the same service that Amazon provides. So with that, they can be able to scale out themselves with relative ease and with least effort. So that's why it's very possible for you to be able to make real impact as far as all of that is concerned. So therefore, I'm just going to intervene to that effect because again, but for full-time jobs, engineers have a single full-time job that they do, but for contracts, it doesn't have a degree. It's a function of how much, because you can create a company and they probably hire folks to work with you in your company. Once you have your company can have a lot of folks that work in the back end and all of that. And we encourage every landmark engineer at one point, to create their own IT startup. That is one of the things that we do in bootcamp. Creating your own startup is very important. So let's take another question from Solo. That should be the last question for tonight. Yes, Solo, can you ask your question?
Hi. Hi. So I've been watching a couple of testimonies and I'm really wait, hold on. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Okay. So I've been watching a couple of testimonies and I'm really curious to know what happens in each level of interviews because I hear 4 levels of interviews and I'm wondering what happens in each level. If you could shed some light, I would appreciate it.
Okay. What I want to say again is that most of the time, when you are hired as a DevOps engineer, it's a senior role. You are like a manager in the company. You are coming there to provide solutions. They are hiring you because you have leadership experience. So most of the first round of interview, a recruiter will see your profile on LinkedIn. They go on LinkedIn and they are searching for DevOps engineer with specific skills. And all the skills that you are going to be putting on map is what they are searching for out there in the job market. Once they source you out, they are going to contact you the first one. The recruiter will be asking you, do you know Docker? You say yes. She ticks it. Do you know Linux? She ticks it. Do you know Git? So all what you are going to be taught in Landmark, that is the first round of interview, the model. They will ask you those things. Now, once you have ticked those ones, the next round most of the time is going to be a technical interview where you will now tell them how you have used Docker. Yes, tell us. You said you know Docker. If you face this kind of a problem, how do you solve it? Like what we just did today. We did Linux. If your server is running slow, what could be the problem and how can you fix it? What will you tell them? Your server could be running slow because your server got what? Limited resources. So that is the problem. The problem is insufficient resource availability. You see that? Now that is now the second round, technical interview. The third round could be another technical interview where they will now invite, members of a person that you are going to be working with, like, people that you are going to be working with in the same team. They will come again, there's some other folks to maybe run you through similar vision. They will ask you, tell us about the projects you are working on or that you have managed in the past. Of course, we tell them how you've worked in Landmark because in Landmark, you are first of all, okay, as a matter of fact, you are, once you are, once you go through the things, it means that you are now a junior engineer running that. So they'll ask you about your project that you have managed in the past. And of course, you are going to tell them. And that's going to be the third round. And most of the time, the fourth round will now be the vice president of the company because this is a senior role. The vice president will call you and try to find out, like how to solve some kind of leadership problem. Like let's assume you have two engineers that are reporting to you. There is a problem. Okay, how can you manage that conflict? You understand what I'm saying? Or now something is failing. You have been assigned a ticket to work on a particular task, and something else comes up. Or you have like three tickets with the same value in terms of all of them has to be done immediately. Which of them will you prioritize first to do? Those now become questions to test on your leadership skills, how you are going to manage stuff in that life. And that is mostly the final round of interview. You see that? So take note about that. And again, talking about IT background, when you started in Landmark some few weeks ago, you had zero IT background. But as the months are increasing, your IT background is going to be building up. You see that? So those are some of the things that I want you guys to take specific note of. And that said, what I want to see again is that now, if you follow landmark testimony, all of them have the same trend. The trend is very simple. You see that? If you go through the models, as somebody called and said, if anyone knows only 30% of your content, they must be hired. And of course, those that are working, those that are at work, the max you are going to use when you be taught will be 20 to 30%. That is the max you are going to use at work. Which means that most of the models that you are going to be taught is just to help you accumulate multiple years of experience. You see that? But while you are at work, you can be at work and all you have to work on is AWS and Terraform. That is 2 out of 18 or 20 modules which we are going to be covering. You understand what I'm saying? But should we just teach those ones? We can't just teach those ones. We want to train you to become an all-round IT engineer, to become a subject matter expert. You see that? And again, there are some questions I cannot really answer them now because you guys just started. If this testimony was shared in class 29, it's going to be different because class 29, we already have folks in that class already getting hired. And we have just gone 60% into the class. You see that? But your class is just for you guys to understand that. What you have embraced, okay, is something you should hold dear. The same motivation that brought you to LAPA is what is going to keep you on a daily basis until you graduate and come back with your own testimonies. We have engineers who have come here to discuss on how they are making up to 800,000 a year plus. We have those testimonies. George is today from one job is far beyond 200,000, for one job. And not just that, with a lot of benefit attached to it. 3D deployment. What are we saying? In addition to that, you are going to be working for both for the rest of your life. And not for any kind of company, Fortune 100 companies, the big folks, because most small folks cannot sponsor visa. And we have a lot of our engineers working in the Fortune 100 companies, the top $1 trillion companies. We have them there in their numbers. Now, you see that, why am I sharing some of this with you guys? You have to relax. You have to calm down and understand that the journey you have started, is a journey you not only complete, but you complete with joy, and with a lot of spoils. Spoils is like, okay, look at how I spent 3.5 or 3.6 for this course, and my first job is going to pay $200,000. So you have to be living with spoils. So this take note is important. So again, as our customers, whenever the engineers come to book their testimony, we pray with them. We thank God because, as far as I'm concerned, as the Paul can only plant, Apollo can only water, but only God gives the increase. Because no matter how much or how well we teach, I'm sure of that there are better folks that are teaching out there, with all the discussion. But I always tell my engineers that if there is something I respect so much when it comes to what is happening in landmark, is what the Bible says that the letter killeth, but the spirit gives life. The letter, that's John 6:63. The letter killeth, but the spirit gives life. What am I saying? What is giving us the impact is the bread of God in our midst. He himself is present. Just dishing out jobs, jobs raining at a scale that you can't imagine. And the good news is it is only getting better. It's only getting better. There are days that some testimonies come and we are just shedding tears with the engineers. It's like the admins have, okay, meetings with me, and somebody is sending a humbling testimony, like the one we got from Josh today. Josh was not even programmed to be in this session. He wasn't programmed. But since he came during the break, that was okay, Josh. Since I was going to bring up Claire, I'm going to bring you up as well. Something. He came during the break. What have I seen? The spirit gives life. The letter killer, which means that you can listen to a very good lecture, but if it is void of the spirit, much cannot be gotten from them. And that's why, like Paul says, if I should boast, let me boast in the Lord. So if we are boasting in the Lord now, we are boasting because of his awesome presence, doing humbling things in our lives. So that's it. I just want to encourage you guys again, George. I'm happy your testimony, you trusted God. You trusted God, you wrote it down because these are things I always see them as the class is being rolled out. I tell folks to understand because you are being launched into a millionaire's realm. And the Bible says a great and effectual door was opened for you and for me. A millionaire door has been opened, but there are many opposition. Why? Because not everybody is going to be happy. No. He is a millionaire. No. He too is a not everyone. And there are forces of the spirit that will fight some people. No matter how much you try, you can never attain that height. And that's why we always deploy God. Because when he goes ahead of us, the Bible says, he says, hold your peace and see the salvation of their God. So it does not matter who is saying the contrary. What is for sure is that if he goes ahead of you, you must return with a testimony. What am I saying? You have listened to George's testimony. He needed visa, both work visa and green card. Both were deployed together with the job. Everything deployed. And this is happening before graduation. Not that he was now underpaid because they had to sponsor him. No. He's among the highest paid for a full-time single job. What are we saying? God is able to make it happen. And that's why we're going to be thanking God. And if you are here desiring such a testimony, I took this class, or I'm here, my spouse was supposed to be here, or my friend, but he cannot join because he's not sure if he'll be able to have a job at the end of the day. His work permit is about to expire and all of that. This is not the first testimony we have seen being sponsored. This is not, because as one person testified, the grace for more to happen. Because the Bible says the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. So when the testimony is shared, it's a prophecy to you and to someone around you that needs such an encounter to know. And you heard what he said. He joined the class after the news command. That's when he joined the class. Both of them joined this class late. I always tell you, God cannot be late. If he comes later, is to make you the latest. So whether you, even if today is your first class, okay, there is no big deal about it. As a matter of fact, even if you have someone who still wants to join, because we always admit folks until the day that we place them in groups. Once they are placed in groups, that is the end of it. Because once you are placed in a team, that is the end of it. Of course, you can still let them. Let them come and benefit from what is happening. It's very important. So that's it. We are going to be thanking God with George and Claire and decree that God will continue to go ahead of them and make every crooked path straight and enable them to be the finest. Now, Claire's testimony, she has worked. As a matter of fact, not all details were presented. Her performance and work has been excellent. She has benefited from salary increase before the date that it was anticipated. Now, I'm adding this because, even if I have the job, why do it? For that kind of question. Are you sure I want to do the job? I said, from the last time I checked, those that had the jobs, they are still at work. Okay, I said, from the last time I checked, so nothing is going to stop you unless you want to come and set a new president. And God forbid that you come and set such a president. But if it can happen to one, it will happen to all. Because again, it is not just that we are praying, we are working. Because again, the only something to hard work is hard life. So we are constantly at work. My father walked and he that's why I walk. That's what Jesus said. My father is at work. That's why John said, you cannot just want to study with all comfort. You just take your computer, you just want to lie and all of that. No. This is business. This is business. No doctor perform operation lying on the bed. This is business. It is a serious business. So let us take this as a serious business, deploy it and redeploy it. And as we do, I want to let you know the testimony I've been shared today. When yours is going to be shared, others are going to be thanking God and saying, Father, this is what I want. If you can do it for Abdul, okay, Ricardo, whoever, you can do it for me as well. So let's just pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you again, Lord, today. We bless you for Claire. We thank you for George. We thank you, Lord, for all the landmark engineers and for the so many job offers you've seen even this week, Lord. We thank you. Lord, we commit George before you. We decree that even as his documents are going to be processed, we pray that you go ahead of him. Favor him, Lord. Let the process be expedited, Lord. Go ahead of him, Lord. Lord, we decree that even at work is going to be among the finest engineering that we have had in landmark and that the world have ever seen. Lord, we thank you for Claire. We bless you that she has come to testify of the victories you have given her at work. Lord, we decree that victory shall constantly be her portion. And for everyone, Lord, that have listened to this testimony, Lord, I decree they shall also return to give their testimony to your glory. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name, we have prayed. Amen and amen. So, thank you so much, everybody. I know us have taken some few minutes, in addition. And as I said again, for those of you that are making it to Toronto this week, please make sure you send me WhatsApp and Telegram messages on the fair so that we are able to ensure that preparations are sufficient enough. Okay, so that's it. Have a good week. And don't forget to complete the forms to be added to the team. Don't forget to do that. And see you guys on Thursday. So have a blessed week, everybody. Yeah, thank you so much for Josh. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Congratulations,
Bye,
George.
everyone.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yes. Bye,
Bye
Bishop.
bye.
Congratulations,
Bye
George.
bye,
Have a
guys.
nice
Happy
time.
birthday.
Bye
Thanks,
to
everyone.
Happy
Congratulations,
birthday,
George.
Prof.
Happy
Birthday, Prof.
Bye,
birthday.
George.
Happy birthday, Prof.
Happy birthday.
Bye bye, George.
Birthday.
Bye
Happy
Happy
bye.
birthday, Prof.
bye.
Birthday,
Bye
Prof.
bye.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Congratulations,
Happy
Bye.
birthday,
Claire.
Prof. Bye, Claire.
Bye, Echo.
Bye.
Claire,
Everyone.
congratulations.
Happy
Bye. Bye.
birthday.
Claire, what's your
Bye.
Instagram?
More light. More light. I bring the light. More light.
Claire, what's your Instagram?
Yeah, you on
Amen.
LinkedIn?
Amen.
Yeah, you on
Claire,
LinkedIn?
what's your Instagram?
Instagram is
All
more
right.
underscore
Thank you,
light.
Prof.
More
And how
underscore
about
light.
LinkedIn?
Okay. Okay.
More underscore light.
Spell it. Spell it. Spell it. Spell more.
Do you
More
have
like
an
M-R-E.
Okay.
what's your
Underscore
display
light.
picture? Is it like a
Okay.
cartoon?
No.
More underscore light?
Yeah, more. Let me put it down. More underscore.
Please,
Everybody's
is
gonna
it
get a
the
job in
same name you
Jesus'
have on
name.
LinkedIn?
Amen.